weekend. Ended up being a quietly good card. Not a lot of expectations, not a lot of chatter about it, but if you watch the fights, especially the main card, it was very exciting.
Very eventful.
Very eventful. A lot of good showings by guys. A lot of guys that you know their name and then they kind of just made a statement.
Was it only one decision or two decisions? Two decisions for the main card. The main event and the first fight.
And they were both like entertaining fights. Like it wasn't a boring fight.
Right. Both contested, both back and forth. Both correct, in my opinion, correct decision by the judges.
Yeah, and one was very obvious, and that was the main event.
Right.
Song Yadong, Chris Gutierrez. This was billed as a fight between two great strikers, and it ended up being
Just that.
Song Yadong had the obvious edge over Chris Gutierrez. About middle of the fight, Gutierrez was visibly frustrated. Not only with the way he was fighting, he was frustrated with his corner. Like some of the back and forth between him and his coaches.
Yeah, you saw that too. He was like, yeah, I know. Like he was like kind of calling him off like, no, I got this. But
I was like, dude, you're not showing you got it. And then he started arguing with somebody in the crowd that even the announcers had to be like, I don't know what fighters talking shit to him, but somebody in the crowd was talking shit and threw him off his game.
Look, he was obviously flustered. I think Song Yadong...
He also got beat by the better striker, I believe.
That was actually what I was about to say. I think Song Yadong had the better strikes throughout for the fight, but also he was the aggressor for the whole fight. He cornered Gutierrez. Now, Gutierrez, to his benefit, he did use like his signature leg kick, move to keep people at bay, damaged Song Yadong's legs as often as he could, but he just didn't put together combos that mattered at the end of the day.
And before the fight, Song Yadong was talking some mad shit. It was probably in Chinese because they were just saying what he was saying.
Right.
But he was very confident coming in. He said he was going to finish it early. It ended up not being that. But Song Yadong, his words before the fight was, I should have got somebody pretty much ranked higher than this. Yeah, I'm going to prove why. And he kind of proved why. He proved he deserves to be a contender in this division.
Yeah, look, he won the fight on the judges' scorecards 50-44, 50-45, 50-45.
So every round with two 10-8 rounds thrown in there.
Look, that shows domination to me. It shows that Chris Gutierrez,
you can
at the
get
very least, was flustered.
MMA judges to agree on every round that you won.
Right.
That's impressive.
That shows that everybody was watching the same fight.
Even somebody that doesn't know what's going on knew Song Yadong kind of beat up Chris Gutierrez in this fight.
Absolutely. My wife was able to tell that, and she doesn't even really pay attention when the fights are on. So I have a question. Who's next? Song Yadong called out Peter Yan.
I would love to see that fight.
That's a good fight.
That's a fight they could have in China, too.
They could have that fight in China.
This fight card was supposed to be in China, by the way.
Up until, what, like a month ago?
2 or 3 weeks ago. It was crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't.
They changed it.
So other options for me, rematch with Corey Sandhagen. You just as a...
I think that's too soon of a fight for them to rematch again.
Or an Aljamain Sterling. We're thinking possibly like a Marab, but Marab's got a fight with Henry Cejudo, scheduled I think in January.
Yeah.
So the other brother, Aljamain Sterling, I think he could be a good option.
I think that would be a good... I don't know if Aljo takes that fight. I would like for him to.
At some point, Aljo's going to have to stop doing what he wants to do and start doing what the UFC tells him to do.
That would be a big fight for Song Yadong, though.
It would. I think any of those fights would be good. Probably the most likely, in my opinion, is going to be his call-out, Peter Yan. Peter Yan I haven't seen fight in a little bit. And I believe the last time he fought, he lost.
Yeah, he lost like 2 or 3 times.
Right. So if you're going to call that guy out, and the UFC might look to book that fight. And like you said, maybe a China card.
Yeah,
Moving on,
see that.
We have the co-main event. That was between the light heavyweights, Anthony Smith and Khalil Rountree Jr. That was another one where, we kind of thought it could go either way. Or at least I thought it could go either way with the striking. If Anthony Smith used his height advantage, his reach advantage to kind of keep Rountree away from him, it would work. But obviously I was proven very quickly wrong.
Yeah, this was a fight.
A chicken leg, Anthony Smith.
You knew nothing about fighting, and you saw the two guys. You'd see the big guy with muscles versus the guy. He's not in bad shape or anything, but he just doesn't have the muscles that Khalil Rountree has.
Right.
You would think Khalil Rountree would dominate. conventional thinking as a fight fan would make you think the opposite. It was like, no, not the impressive looking guy.
Right,
Physique and everything. That's not the best fighter.
Personally,
well, in this case, the casuals were right.
Personally, I thought Khalil Rountree's muscles were going to gas him late into the fight, and Anthony Smith was going to kind of just wear on him. And then later in the fight, he was going to kind of piece him up to victory.
He took too much damage. Khalil was just piecing him up.
Yeah, a minute into the third round, he got all wobble leg.
Yeah, and as you said, it was to a lesser extent Bobby Green.
Right.
Although they stopped the fight without him taking more damage, which the Bobby Green fight should have been.
Right. I don't want to harp on that too much. The Bobby Green took way too much damage, when he was getting knocked out several times.
This fight was not as bad as a wobble leg knockout.
Better look, though, with Rountree standing over him with a balled fist just ready to...
I was about to say that. That was maybe one of the most, intimidating, I'm sure there's a cool photo of him out there, standing with the hammer fist just ready to pounce on him if... I think it was Herb Dean led him. But he waited for the ref, give him credit, didn't give Anthony too much damage.
Right,
what an
absolutely.
impressive win from Rountree.
What do you think? So for the next fight for Rountree, so he obviously kind of jumps Anthony Smith in the rankings there. He moves up. Who do you think? He called out Alex Pereira. Might be a little early for there.
I would like to see that fight, but
light heavyweight's not very stacked up as a division.
So it's possible if Pereira defends the belt one more. I don't know. That's not out of the question.
So I threw up two other possible options. We have like a Jan Blachowicz or a Nikita Krylov.
I would like either one, but him versus Jan Blachowicz is probably the fight he would like most. Blachowicz just carries more. He's a former champ, so that carries more weight.
I agree.
If you were to beat him, that's a good one to put on your resume.
I think if you don't get the Pereira fight next for Rountree, I think if you book somebody, if not Jan Blachowicz specifically, somebody like...
Hey, and then Yuri's just sitting out there.
Right. Somebody like Jan goes out there. If you beat him, you're standing next in line for a title shot. If you beat Jan or Yuri, somebody like that, I think you're pretty much set up.
All right, so that takes care of the co-main. The next one, Jamie Mullarkey taking on the Moroccan.
Man, I ate my shit on this one.
Haqparast.
Haqparast.
I don't know why I can't say that guy's name. It's a cool name.
It is.
I picked him to win, and he performed first round knockout.
Yeah, he did exactly what you said he was going to do.
The best way to describe his performance was sharp. Sharp as in his punches were pointed. They were getting where they needed to go. They cut through, and they were landing on Jamie Mullarkey. And they were obviously powerful by the way this fight ended. Yeah,
I agree. We thought this was going to be a striking bout off the bat, and both fighters started off strong. Jamie Mullarkey did, initially start off kind of countering whatever Haqparast was throwing, but like you said, the damage was just too much there.
Haqparast was just too much for him.
Yeah, like I alluded to it before. He kind of looks like a more in shape Kelvin Gastelum, and he showed that he's he kind of better in the striking range in that division if that's his counterpart. He finished the fight early. It didn't go to a decision or anything like that. Good for Haqparast. I had to eat my words.
Is he the second resurgence of African fighters?
Moroccan. He could
be. They had a big. Peak last year kind of dip. They're going to come back. We know
under 2 minutes in the first, a minute 44 seconds in the first round was a stoppage. If that's the case, if that's the resurgence of Africa in the UFC, who does he fight next? Is it somebody like Bobby Green who just got knocked out? Because the lightweight division's stacked, or is it somebody like Benoit Saint Denis who's on a tear of a win column on his own?
I would like to see him versus Saint Denis. I think Bobby Green's going to have to take a long time off.
What about Rafael dos Anjos? He's coming off of a loss, but it's a loss from a couple months ago
against Vicente Luque.
Right.
I think that would be a good fight for him. I think right now Haqparast needs a guy with a name. RDA has a name. Benoit Saint Denis has a name right now in the division.
Benoit Saint Denis has a big name right now in the lightweight division.
Either of those are good fights for Haqparast, and I think anybody he fights, he's going to come in with. He might not be the favorite, especially against like Saint Denis or something, but he's not a guy to mess around with.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't want to sleep on somebody like Nasrat Haqparast to win at any point in any fight, even against our favorites. Going into whoever he's fighting next. All right, so jumping into the next fight for UFC Vegas 83,
The late notice.
It was a late notice replacement by Tim Elliot. He took on Mudaerji. It was a strong bantamweight fight, and kind of like we were talking before we started hitting the record button, Mudaerji kind of hit his weakness.
Yeah, if you look at this on paper, you would say, oh, he's lost all his fights by submission. Well, Tim Elliott has submissions, so he's going to win. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, you picked Mudaerji. I picked Elliott. It was kind of a clash from the beginning. I didn't know how to judge the fight coming in. The biggest thing I thought from Elliott was going to be his crazy, unorthodox style was just going to be too much for Mudaerji to combat in a setting where he didn't have a full camp or much longer than a few days to study who Tim Elliott is. You know,
Well, I don't think it really mattered, honestly, because
It
Tim
really
Elliott
didn't.
has a
That's
strong
just my
game,
thoughts.
strong ground game, and that's obviously his weakness.
Right. So going in, it played a very significant role. Like we said, Mudaerji tried to stay composed through Elliott's unorthodox style, but it proved way too much, and he got subbed. You know, it was an impressive victory.
So it was a guy that's new to the UFC and Mudaerji taking on one of the biggest vets in the division in Tim Elliott.
Right.
And it proved, as we've said before, many times before, in our 6 months of doing this, that the experience, and there's levels to this.
Experience and levels.
And Tim Elliott proved he's a level above Mudaerji.
A gatekeeper in the division.
Even on short day notice.
As long as you can make weight, if you're Tim Elliott, you have a chance to win the fight.
All right, so the last fight of the main card that we're going to cover was the main card opener. Jung Young Park, Andre Muniz. Honestly, I was surprised by the way this, looking on paper, Muniz, I don't know why. I didn't think he was going to win. He had 2 straight losses, taking on a guy with 4 straight wins. It looked like careers in opposite directions.
I agree.
And Muniz proved us wrong.
Today, Junior. Yeah, I agree. I thought it was definitely a match of careers, almost in 2 different directions, with Muniz losing to Brendan Allen and Paul Craig in kind of that order, you know, in history.
Those are 2 killers, though. I'll give him credit.
Park, 4 wins in a row, getting, 3 of those by submission, I
3
think.
straight subs coming in.
Look, I thought this was going to go more of the way of Park having the angle of wrestling, but it showed that Park was resilient and never giving up and, giving the position up. He always found a way to get back to his feet no matter how long it took. It was more annoying to me because of how dominant Muniz was able to be with the control time, with the kind of...
It was control time, but it was like...
It was
Muniz,
active. I wasn't pissed
active,
with how the
wasn't-
fight was happening.
It was active, but it wasn't like ground and pound act. Like,
Right.
I think they said it during the broadcast that Park
Could have won the first round in the last minute,
but they said
alone.
Yeah,
of the
because
first
he was
round.
getting control most of the fight, but he turned it around in the last minute and started getting
Right,
some ground
he
and
got
pound.
damage.
They said Park. They said, and if you watch the fight, it looked like it happened. Park, he was good. He was getting control, but he was good at limiting the damage he took while he was getting controlled.
Right, he was able to take his time and get out of move,
Well,
get
like
out of
Alex
position.
Pereira, if you get him to the ground, he's not going to get back up that much. He'll get back up a little bit, but he's going to make sure you're not ground and pounding him.
Yeah, I believe this fight could have gone either way. I think it was a solid split decision victory by Andre Muniz.
Yeah, if I had to pick, you got to pick Muniz. If you watch the fight.
Even pre-fight when I picked Park. Even pre-fight when I picked Park, I believe that watching the fight, Muniz did do enough to win the fight through 3 rounds.